Testing, 1, 2, 3, check. Audio test, check. Hello again, everybody. I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching today. Today we're going to do a watercolor painting, and it's a special kind of watercolor painting. It's called a line and wash. I haven't ever done this before, so you're going to see me experiment with it for the first time. So that ought to be fun. It's a picture of an old, I call it a vintage gas station. It's one that was probably there in the 1940s and 50s, and it still exists in a town near where I grew up in Indiana. And I had a small photograph of it. It wasn't the greatest photo, but I was able to manage to get this sketch off of it. The sketches are on my website if you want to get them. There should be links down below in this video that you're watching, so you can try that. I'm not going to go to the computer today and talk about it, because basically it's just a photograph. I was able to get a sketch, but the sketch didn't really show up very well in my broadcast software, so I haven't been showing it. But I want to show you this. So this particular sketch has been done with black ink, and it's a form of ink that's hopefully going to resist watercolor, so that it doesn't run when I put watercolor on it. But a line and wash basically is where you put the sketch on in ink, and then you come back and fill it in as you would a normal watercolor painting. That's a basic way to do a line and wash. There's other ways to do it. If we have time today, I may show you another way that I've learned that I would call it more a wash and line type of painting, but nevertheless, this is what we're going to work on today, and I hope you're going to like it. I want to check my lights. I see a reflection coming here on my screen that I don't like. I'm not sure what light's doing it. Let me see if it's this one here. That doesn't appear to be the one. Sorry about that, folks. I can't get zoomed in enough to get that light reflection out of there, but maybe I can move over a little bit further this way, and that brings it more in. Okay, well, anyway, we'll work on this. I have another sketch behind here, and I want to talk to you a little bit when we get done with this, how badly a job I did sketching this thing the first time through. It's amazing what you don't see, and so anyway, we'll talk about that. I want to go over the paints and the brushes here. This is my typical setup, my Sterling Edwards palette, my Sterling Edwards brushes. I have the big 1-inch brush. It's bristle. I have a flat that's a 1/2 inch. I got about 3 rounds here, and I got a script liner. So I don't know if I'll use all those, but I have them all available. And then I have a few of these black marking pens that I have. The one I did this particular sketch with is this one. It's called, these are Faber-Castell, and they're basically, these are pure black, and they come in various sizes in terms of the nib on the tip of them. I have a fine nib here that I did a sketch with. I also have a bold nib. It's more like a brush. I don't know if you can see that, but this is good for coming in when you come into a place like this and you're looking for some darks that you want to accentuate. You can kind of come in and sort of paint a little bit with this to make it darker in some areas. There's a lot of shadow and dark in this particular photograph, so I'm going to try to use this instead of trying to mix up a black, which is possible to do. You can also, in a line and wash, it's very typical for artists to use a technique like this where they put in the dark paint, if you will, is really black ink. And by using paints that are very transparent, this will show through very nicely. And so I'm going to put down a little bit of a shadow here. This shadow comes down about like, I want to say something like this, has a little angle on it, and it kind of turns around, it hits this particular post over here. So we're really starting the painting here by filling in some of these dark areas that I want to be really dark in shadow. And so it's just kind of a way to get yourself started. And I just realized I didn't have that showing on the broadcast software, so I've now switched that over. When I edit this video, I'll correct all that and you'll see it the way I did it, but right now we're just filling in some darks around this. These posts are all very much in shadow, and I could be doing this with dark black paint, but this is more the line and wash type of technique, I guess, to use this black marker to make your darks. And there's some dark shadow under this old bench. So this is, like I said, it's an old gas station that's been around. I don't even know if it's still there, but I was able to find this photograph and I kind of liked it. So that's kind of what we're going to do, work on today, and put a few more dark shapes in here, something like this. So I'm just sort of outlining some areas that are dark, have dark around them. A couple of outbuildings here. This back here, I may do that with paint, but it's really this hose that's on this. This is an old time gas pump, folks. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like this or not, but this is the way gas used to be put into cars. This was before the days of electricity, and they didn't have pumps and motors and that sort of thing to pump the gas into your car. These were gravity fed. So this old gas pump has this top up here is an area that's filled with gas. There's a hand pump down here that they pump the gas up and it sits there. And when you want gas in your car, you say, I want 5 gallons or 4 gallons, and they pump it in. Wouldn't work in today's cars very well because you may not know how many gallons you need. So it's kind of an interesting way in areas where we didn't have electricity. Actually, I had an experience of using a pump like this in Idaho a few years ago. Went to an old general store that had one of these pumps outside. Supposedly it was one of the 2 working manual gas pumps left in the United States. And this pump doesn't have a shutoff. They take the nozzle and stick it in your car, and when your tank fills up, it just runs out the top. So it's kind of nifty. Tell them you want 6 gallon, and if you need 5.5, the extra half gallon kind of ends up on the ground. So that was kind of a unique experience. But that area was an area called Shoup, Idaho, and I actually put some gas in my car at that time, so it was a fun little experience. Anyway, that's the marking pen. This other one has a much smaller nib that's used to put in the these lines that you see here, I'm not going to spend much time with this. I'm going to start painting with our regular paints here, the wash. But the idea is to have a couple, 3 different kinds of nibs. The nib is the tip of these ink pens, and you can get wide lines, narrow lines, use a brush like that to get a very fat line. So that's really what I wanted to show you with these pens. So now we'll get to painting. So that's pretty much my little discussion on that. And I'm going to get my palette in here for the online viewers. Okay, so let's get going. I'm going to put, this may go kind of fast, I don't know, but I'm going to put in a little bit of sky and wet some of the paper just a little bit to get some, to be able to run some of this paint around. Put some sky in and then let that dry while we're working on other parts, and I'll come back and put a layer of trees up there after this. So I'm going to just get some ultra blue. I didn't go around and tell you the colors in the palette. I've told you many times, but I will tell them to you as we go through here. I'm using ultramarine blue right now. I have Payne's gray, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, royal blue, permanent violet, green gray, burnt umber, burnt sienna, quinacridone scarlet, bright rose, brilliant orange, quinacridone gold, permanent yellow deep, and cad yellow lemon. These are all Holbein paints, and they're very beautiful, very transparent. And so when you see this, see me paint with this, you'll see these colors coming through. Not the colors, you'll see the dark ink should shine through these paints very easily. So I'm just mixing in some color here to get a little bit of a sky, not much. Soft edges, put a little bit down here, maybe like that, right down. Okay, so soft edges, soft edges. Soft edges will tell you these are clouds. If I give you too many hard edges, it may look real like a photograph, but it wouldn't translate very well. So let's just put in a few more. Don't want rectangles. So that's just sort of the, I'll put it down here like that. Okay. So that's all we need to do for the sky. There's not much to that, and that's all we need to do. If you have any questions, folks, please key them into the chat window here, and I have another computer up here by my arm, and I will be able to check and see what you're asking or what you're commenting on, and maybe be able to answer you back or give you an answer of some sort. Okay, so I'm going to stay out of that sky. I keep telling you, when you get a sky in, just leave it alone. Don't keep going back in there and messing with it, because you'll just make it worse generally. So that's the sky. All right. Let's look at this building now. We've got, it's pretty much a white building, but it's really a beat up old dirty gray building for the most part. So I'm going to get myself some little Payne's gray and add it to this blue, kind of gray that down. I want to put a little burnt sienna in there too, and burnt sienna and ultramarine make a very beautiful gray as well. You can get several different shades. You can get it shaded toward the brown side, you can get it shaded toward the blue side, depending on what kind of mixture you put in there. But just going to put in some shadows in here. This is wet on dry. I'm not using, I didn't really wet this paper down all that much. I did put a little water in it, but just for the sky. It's mostly to let that sky blend in up there. Okay, let's see here. It's blue. I don't need that blue. I'm going to put a little more brown color in here. So in this case, you're going to have a lot of hard edges at the where the paint meets these edges. They're going to be hard because of the black ink, right? And I'm able to paint right over that black ink without any of it running. It doesn't reconstitute itself and make an ugly black mess. Up here on the left, I'm going to put a little more, let me see, what do I want up here? Let me get a little more brown. I'll put a little more brown up there. Put some warmth in it. Up here, these probably were brown boards at one time, but we're just going to throw in a little bit of brown there, mix it up, put a little more shadow in there. Something like that. And you see I got a hard edge going all along here, so the way to fix a hard edge is to come back with some water, clear water, and just touch the edge, take the paint out of your brush, just soften that edge. Okay, so much for that. Let's look at this little roof line here. It's a rusty color, so I'm going to see if I can get a rusty color going here. I'm going to use my burnt sienna and a little bit of my brilliant orange. Should be able to get a rusty color, and if I want to make it a little dirtier, I'll stick a little bit of that burnt umber in there. I'll show you what I'm talking about here on the palette. Get just a little darker in some areas, but like here we just want to come down and do some quick marks like this. I don't want to cover the whole thing. I don't want to fill it in like it's a coloring book, even though this painting style kind of looks a little bit like a coloring book in some regards. Put a little cool motion in here, come back, get a little warm. Mixture of warm and cool, cool and warm. Gives it some nice dynamics. A little more gray over here on this side. It's a little more out of the light, I guess. There's more trees on this left side. This is 300-pound Fabriano Artistico watercolor paper, and that's what I'm painting on, which is what I usually paint on. And the sketching actually with my black ink there was a little bit bumpy. I don't know why the sketch didn't show up very well on my software when I was trying to broadcast it to you. Usually my sketches come out pretty nice. This one for some reason didn't like it. I think it may be because of the fact I had this sketched on watercolor paper. Normally I have a sketch that I show you which is on like tracing paper, and usually comes through better on that software for some reason. Let's put a few, we got some nice warms in there. Maybe a little yellow to warm it up in some areas. I see some yellow in my, just a little bit, make it warmer up there. This is from light bounce from the ground. I have well, I got that little yellow thing going there. I'm going to put this little barn back here has some green in it, green and dirty green. So let's just throw in some water back there. See that? In this case, I don't have to make all those little lines. Normally, I would take my brush and get it dark, and I would be stamping in these lines back there to represent the siding on that. Don't have to do that. So I'm just putting this in. This old gas station had things you see here are these are oil. I think these are canisters that have oil in them, and in those days people didn't buy a quart of oil in a can. They would have to go to these pumps and pump it out, and so these were two different brands or two different weights of motor oil, and they had little hand pumps on them, and you go in there and just take your some sort of a funnel type container and pump it in there and put it in your car. So the idea was to let you be kind of self-service, although these guys probably waited on you back in those days. I don't know that they don't wait on you too much anymore. These windows are just put a little Payne's gray in there, almost Payne's gray right out of the tube pretty much. This place had an old Coke machine sitting on it on the porch, and had a bunch of signs that said Coca-Cola, and I shouldn't really duplicate those signs with in my painting, because that is a trademarked logo, and so I just kind of left this, so you can't really know what it is, but you can't read it exactly. And then these other signs said Coca-Cola, and I actually just sort of dotted them in with my brush, or my ink pen, so that they didn't really show up all that well. And that's sort of a trick I learned, to try to, you don't want to violate anybody's copyright, and they might not like me putting their logo in my art. So if you can't exactly tell what it is, I can argue that it's blurred enough that it's not obvious. Okay, so that's the background there. I'm going to put a few more dirty splotches in here, and just because it is a beat up, run down old building, and some of this, mix it up. So it's very much like I would normally paint anyway. It's just that the lines are not pencil lines, and they're not they don't fade out. They're easy to see. All right, this try some more of this red here. I'm going to get some of that orange, a little bit of this orange color for these barrels. This is so old, they had a logo on them for Gulf Oil, which I can't remember when I've seen Gulf Oil lately. Will be long out of business, or been purchased by another oil company probably. So okay, I want to come back and put a little more dirty stuff on there to kind of make them look like they're rounded. For one thing, I want some shadow on one side, so I'm going to just drop in a few dabs of Payne's gray, put a couple of them up here. All right, kind of says they're some sort of a barrel. All right, what else we got going here? This little bench, just gonna swipe it in real quick, get some brown, get a little of my burnt sienna, and lighten it up. Throw in some of that brown. It's a darker brown, burnt umber maybe, with some Payne's gray in it. And we'll put these in underneath to be darker than that. See, I almost matched that dark shadow color right there with my Payne's Gray and Burnt Umber. Okay, let's come in here and put in these rest of this post. So this is a case where I'm trying to stay inside the lines. I'm actually painting it a lot like it would be a normal watercolor painting. There's actually a, I think this was a, like an old log or something laying here in the front. Something like that. Back here, there's a lot of debris and garbage and stuff back there. I'm not going to mess with that too much. Put in this little step area right here. Have another post here that I need to fill in. Right, that dark ink really stands out. It's very obvious. See if I can shade that a little bit by putting in some more dark paint to make it so it's not quite such a hard edge, dramatic change. A bit too much there. Let's lighten that up. All right. So far I've only used this 1/2-inch brush other than what I use for the sky. I'm going to get this red color. The red color of the Coca-Cola sign is mostly red. It's got some dirt and junk in it, so it's not a pure color, but I think I'm going to get my small, I'll use this brush to put in some of the paint and then come back and that's a different red than that slightly. See if my rose is too rosy. Put a little orange in it to change that color a little bit. Down here. Let me put in this, get my smaller brush. I'm getting this number 4 round here. Kind of come in here and see if I can sort of paint around these letters just a little. Doesn't have to be that neat because it's all kind of dirty and beat up. I really don't want you to pay that much attention to it. So there, this swooping logo there, that kind of tells you what it is if you're familiar with the brand. Come in here and do the same thing to this little logo. They had a couple signs that all said the same thing, so I treated them both the same, made it very sketchy so that you can exactly tell what the logo said, even though most people know. So it's just my artistic interpretation of the thing anyway. So there we go. So it's that. This particular machine, cola machine, I'm going to do the same kind of thing on it. I'm going to paint this background here Try to leave the letters open here. Like this and this. And over here like that, like this. So, getting my signs all painted here at once, but the same color, so I'll just kind of put it all in. It won't be the exact color, but necessarily, but it's going to help tell you what that thing is sitting there that looks like a refrigerator. Okay, now, all right. Don't mess with that too much. We've got some things in here that are like the signs and so forth, where the pop comes out. I'm going to just put this in real quick and then come back over it with some quick colors to go over that. Just darken here. Going to help define those windows just a little more. Okay. What else? These things over here are dry now. I'm going to come back and put just a little bit of blue paint. Oops, I dropped my brush. Sorry. Hold on there. Everybody still with me? All right. How we doing on time? Well, we're doing about 30 minutes. Okay. Going a little slower than I thought. I'm not sure. I think the side of this machine is a similar color here. Don't like that. Okay, that's so much for that. The front of it's got sort of a grayish color. In a few more things here to help define it. There we go. All right, that's good enough. Over here, this door, it's got some windows in it that have a little bit of color in them, so let's throw in a few windows here. Take a little longer than I thought for this, but it's kind of fun. It's looking like an old beat up building for the most part. Got some signs up there around the top. You just paint this in and let the ink work display what it is. That's part of my difficulty. I haven't done this before, folks. I think I told you that. So it's kind of all new here how this is working. And don't have to be quite as careful painting around things. A little bit of dark down here. Around that little tank. Over here on the side, we got similar type stuff going on. So just put it in there and let it rip. The brown up here. All right. Take a little bit of lighter color. I'll put some of that yellow up in here to get some light bounce. Hope you can give this a try. This is kind of a new way. Yeah, Chrissy, that's the way the old pumps were. They looked just like that. And I don't know if you heard me tell my story about actually getting gas from one of those pumps in Idaho, but it was a fun experience. The guy walked out and says, "How many gallons you want?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I have a gauge on the inside, but it doesn't tell me how many gallons I need." So we just started pumping and watched it until it ran over and we stopped. It was pretty interesting. Put in a few grassy-like things. Put in some more grassy-like things over here. Put some pulling some green backgrounds in here. There's a little bit of an overrun. Oh, come on. All right. Okay, so that's enough for that right now. Got to put this other orange guy in, so let's see if I can get a color that's similar to these over here. It's really kind of beat up and rusty, and come in from the bottom. We'll pick up a little dirt and stuff from the bottom and pull it up. Got a little thing that flares out here. Okay, got some dirt up here. And just a little. Up there is where the gas would go. I don't know what these things are. I didn't see those on the previous pumps that I had experienced. I don't know what they are. But they were in the photo, so I just stuck them in here. And this, I don't know what this is. This looks like an exhaust pipe or something that lets maybe fumes out. I don't know. I didn't see that on the pump that I pumped out of either. But this brought back some nostalgia for me. Oh, let's see. I'm going to put in a little bit of this greenish yellow color in here. Like it might have had something that looked like gas in there. I'm just letting the stuff sort of run. All right. Little building in the back. Excuse me. Yeah, that gravity feed was quite an experience. That's exactly what happened to my car. It just went on the ground, and I said, I think it's full. Sure enough. Putting a few more things here. All right, let's get back on this house back here. I'm going to put a little something dark in here to kind of show there's something going on back there. A few things. Got a little, we got a tin roof here, some kind. Got maybe something that's got some color on it back here a little bit. And then kind of a roof line. This little job on the side, I'm not sure what that was for, but a bit of shadow in there in some areas. All right. It's pretty close to being done. We'll put some trees in the top. Get me a big flat round brush here and pull out some colors for my for this grassy. It's actually gravel here and it's more grassy back that way, so I'm going to make some grassy stuff going back here. There's some sort of a woods or something back there that so this up here in front, I'm just going to kind of pull the brush really fast, see if I can make some gravel like marks. Because I'm using this 300-pound paper, there's a lot of dimples in this paper, so when I pull the brush fast, you can see the marks. This wants to go back there. All right, in the distance back there, let's see if I can get some colors that start looking like grasses and that sort of stuff, or trees or whatever back here. I'm using a big number 12 round here. So I'll pop these in. I probably need my flat brush a little bit along this architecture here. Really what these flat brushes are good for. They can come in here and just put this stuff in so nicely. Around something that's vertical. Angular. Round brushes don't do a very good job of that, in my opinion. But when you want trees and stuff to go like this, you can just sort of do a lot of dry brush up there like that and get some really nice effects. Down in here, lighten it up a little bit, maybe change the color. Actually, if there's any lighter color, it would probably be up here on the top, up here. Yeah. So let's just kind of throw that in and let it myself a good abstract shape. I don't want to make this look like a circle. There's probably some more over here in this area, so let's throw a few more over here. Leave some air pockets, air holes. Maybe come even down in here. This thing actually went clear off the top of the photograph here. So what I'm trying to do is leave some interesting shapes here, not just what I'm painting, what I'm not painting. So you got to think about that when you're painting. Make sure that you don't leave odd looking shapes around. I'm putting in some darks, adding some accentuated darks in here. See this area that I needed to finish out in here. I didn't really do a good job there. Up against this pipe, exhaust tube or whatever it is, it doesn't stand out now. I've totally sort of destroyed it with values. So when you give this a try, you can modify your technique and do however you like. And I think that's all I'm going to do today. I'm going to take you through this other painting, but I was going to actually do a wash and line with that. Maybe I'll do that next month. I'll come back and do it's more of an abstract type of painting, and it might be the subject of a whole session itself. I'm going to just put in a few more things to sort of fill this in a little bit to make sure it's not all really white. I don't want your eye really going down here that much. What else do I need to do? I got a little tank there. It looks like a propane tank or something. I'm not sure what that thing is. It's probably a sort of a steel color or bluish steel. So I'll get myself some, put them in here. Darker, make it a little darker. Something like this. There we go. Well, I got that color. I'm going to come back and retouch this little guy and make him stand out there a little better. Okay. All right. So there's a pretty good example. The thing I might try to do, I may wait until after this is over with to do it. But I want to put maybe a wash on here to sort of darken this shadow area. I don't know if you can see that, but this area here should all sort of be in a shadow. If I come over there with a wash right now, I'm afraid it's fairly dry. Get me a big soft brush here that give me just a nice grayed down, little blue, little Payne's gray, and sort of want to try it. See, I may ruin this whole thing now, folks. This is probably what you're going to see happen here. I'm going to cut right across diagonally, like I did these things, like here, like that. Okay, nice smooth brush, quick stroke, a lot of water. And just put it in really, really fast. It's called a glazing wash, right? All of a sudden you're seeing this thing all get just slightly darker, very slightly. All right. That's not too bad. If I go back in there now, I'll mess with it and I'll ruin it. But I want to just have a good sharp angle going across there, and I think that did it. Maybe there's a couple more areas here down below. I could do something similar. Like this. There was some shadows that kind of stuck out under here. Like that. And there's probably some shadows back in here that I didn't really address. I could probably have some things going up like this. Kind of represent a bit of a shadow there. What else? I think I'm about done. I'm going to put a few maybe tree trunks in here and some of these trees just to help it look like there is some branches and stuff going on. Let them come out here, up here, like that. A few things. A couple down here maybe that even come out. Yeah, that putting a shadow in like that really is kind of neat. Let's see here. I got way too many branches and stuff to paint in here, so I'm just kind of picking and choosing what I want to show. Don't want to paint everything. I'll drive you crazy. So just some things that look like there's some tree really late. All right, darker area maybe up here. This could be just a little darker. Too dark probably. It will lighten up to some extent, but need to have that tapered a little more. All right, I'm going to run it if I keep messing with it. But I don't have anybody here to tell me to stop. Put in a few things behind the Gulf Oil logo there. Show they're kind of beat up, run down. All right, I'm going to call a halt here. And find a place to stick my name here. I think it's still fairly dry. I don't like that brush. I'm going to get a script liner. I need a finer liner here. A lot of paint in it. Just come in here. Okay. I think that's going to do it for now. So that is a line and wash. I could probably keep messing with this if I want to keep screwing around with it, but I think I'm going to, I keep saying I'm going to stop and then I don't stop. All right, I am stopping. Okay, folks, there you go. There's a line and wash, and I hope you like it. I hope you give it a try. The original photo's out on my website. The sketch is out there, and as I look at it now, I see the dark blacks here really are almost too dark. They really kind of draw your eye. It looks like there's a frame around that. If I had to do it again, I probably wouldn't put those in with black ink. I probably would put them in with paint. But that's the way a line and wash typically works. And I think I'm going to save maybe till my next class to do a wash and line. I'll show you some new techniques I've learned to do it that's much more impressionistic and that sort of thing. So we'll try that in another session. And so I hope you give this a try. Check out my website. Check out my Facebook page. Leave me some comments if you like it. I will edit this so it'll be out on my website or out on YouTube in 3 days. And check out my Patreon site if you'd like to give me some support. I'd appreciate it. That'd be a place to do it. And so I think that's all I want to tell you today. So until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye. Get up in there close. There we go. Oh, you're welcome.